That's my song! Let's sing it! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Come on! It's gonna be fucking awesome! You know the words! It's gonna be fucking awesome! That's it! Sing! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Yeah!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another fucking awesome episode of Coolest Alive. I'm your host, Jesse Blaze Snider, and today on Coolest Alive, we are celebrating one of the most unique franchises in film history, the Star Trek movies. Not just sci-fi films, but films about humanity, aging, friendship, war, exploration, politics, philosophy, optimism, and what kind of people we choose to become. This is my ranking of all 13 Star Trek films, and if you know Trek fandom, you already know some of these choices are going to start fights. Now, we're going to kick this list off today with my bold choice for number 1, Star Trek INSURRECTION. Hey, am I the only one who thinks that the fundamental message of Star Trek INSURRECTION, the 9th Star Trek film, is the single most powerful message of the entire series, across both film and television? For those who don't remember or haven't seen it, basically, they find a civilization that seems like they're on the verge of becoming advanced enough to possibly join the Federation. But as it turns out, they're actually so advanced that they already did all that exploration garbage, only to realize that all they really needed was each other and a beautiful planet to appreciate and prosper together on. All that exploration and discovery no longer appealed to a race of people who found gratitude in simply being together and creating a society where they could just enjoy life and each other. I don't know about you, but that blew my mind. The height of wisdom was always just gratitude and togetherness. Realizing our oneness and creating a society that supported everyone and let them all live in peace and love and play. Now that is true wisdom. I think those who don't appreciate this film are really missing the single most beautiful core message that is more powerful than any message I've ever received in any work of fiction. This message has stuck with me and will continue to echo between my ears for as long as I live. I am rarely so grateful for a mere piece of fiction, but this message deserves that level of gratitude, and I am fortunate to be wise enough to recognize its infinite merit. There's a beautiful lady in the movie who plays one of the leaders of this wise and advanced civilization, and I remember thinking she was one of the most beautiful women I had ever seen in my life at the time, but not because of her physical appearance, even though she is a physically attractive person with a pretty face, but that face is amplified by what she embodies in this film. The beautiful utopian civilization. And the way she expresses this to Captain Picard in their scenes together represent some of the most beautiful ideas I had ever heard articulated by anyone at the time. I fell in love with her on the spot. In love with what she represented. Years later, actually, my not yet 1,000-year-old girlfriend, Julie Brightigam, would say similar things to me about what she thought was most important in life, what made it worth living, without knowing that she was calling back to this in my heart and mind. True wisdom from a person who had lived a mere fraction of the lifetime of the woman depicted in the film, and she had never seen any of the Star Trek films, I don't think. Thank you, God, for sending a few angels down to Earth. Oh, I'm going to cry. With this wisdom still intact, it truly is beautiful. I think I fell in love with Julie on the spot. Anyway, This is the Star Trek movie that feels the most like what I actually love about Star Trek. Not giant universe ending warfare, not endless cynicism, not darkness pretending to be maturity. This is a story about a society discovering a peaceful, hidden world where people live longer, healthier, happier lives in harmony with nature. And then the Federation itself slowly starts becoming morally compromised enough to justify stealing that paradise from its inhabitants in the name of the greater good. Picard essentially rebels against his own government because he realizes Star Trek is supposed to stand for humanity, or I should say the Federation is supposed to stand for humanity, protecting dignity and freedom, not exploiting the weak because it's politically convenient. It's warm, philosophical, adventurous, funny, romantic, and deeply human. It feels like the soul of the next generation at full power. So let's talk about it a little bit. Directed by Jonathan Frakes, written by Michael Piller. And who is Jonathan Frakes, for those of you who are not huge Star Trek fans? Before directing Trek films, Frakes played Commander Riker, and he does play Commander Riker in this film, both in The Next Generation and in all of the Next Generation-based films. But he became one of their best in-house directors that Star Trek ever had. He was great and made lots of great episodes of the show. He also directed First Contact, as well as this one that we're talking about, Insurrection. Frakes just understands the warmth and the optimism, the ensemble chemistry, because he's part of the ensemble cast. Understands the humor and the emotional sincerity of the franchise. His Trek movies feel like they genuinely love the crew. Unlike William Shatner's directed Star Trek that feels like he genuinely loves himself. Sorry. I'm going to be giving William Shatner a lot of fucking digs this whole episode. But let's introduce you to the crew of The Next Generation. The crew for the series of Next Gen and the crew for the Next Generation movies are all, thankfully, largely the same. You got Patrick Stewart playing Captain Picard, the philosopher king captain of Star Trek. You got Jonathan Frakes, as mentioned, as Riker, who's the second in command in the Spock position, for those of you who are more original Trek fans, who's a jazz-loving, action-oriented first officer. Brent Spiner as one of science fiction's greatest android characters, Data. LeVar Burton from the Reading Rainbow as the genius engineer. Michael Dorn as our Klingon warrior legend security officer. Gates McFadden, who is the compassionate heart of the crew and the ship's doctor. And Marina Sirtis, who is the empathic Counselor Troy, helping Picard to navigate various emotional conflicts. What makes The Next Generation different and the Next Generation films, they're less about cowboy adventures and more about diplomacy, ethics, philosophy, and humanity evolving. And me personally, that's why I love Star Trek. I liked the original series. My dad was a big fan of the original series. The thesis of the original series is amazing. But it's really, for me, the later shows, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and even Enterprise, which I know is a little bit of a mixed bag for some people, but I love Enterprise. Those series are what helped me to fall in love with Star Trek as a teenager, and then later when I was in my 20s and I went back and I bought all of the series on DVD and I watched all of them. I mean, I've watched every episode of the show at least 3 times, I think. Maybe I've skipped 1 or 2 episodes that I don't love a lot, but I love the Star Trek series. In general, I've never really appreciated the films as much. Insurrection is the film that feels to me the most like the series. And I love the series. It goes alongside The Muppets as one of my single favorite fictional universes, stories, mythologies that I know and love and return to all the time. And just to talk about it, oh, damn it. I don't want to cry. Why do I gotta cry? I'm such a baby. Whenever I tap into like a real love, and I try to give you guys my real love for this stuff, whenever I tap into my real love, I I feel strongly about this. I love Star Trek. Um, you know, and Picard isn't Kirk, and I love that about him. I'm not a big Kirk fan. Uh, the old series is old, and it's just sort of old fashioned in a lot of like the ways that it's delivering these things. And the thinking man's starship captain is way more where I'm at. He's not trying to outpunch the universe. He's trying to understand it. There's some really important supporting cast in this movie as well. Playing the bad guy, Ruffo. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's played by F. Murray Abraham, who's a really great villain and great actor in general. The group of people that he's leading, they have all this like face stretching stuff because they're getting old and their faces are getting wrinkled, and it's like this metaphor for cosmetic surgery that honestly I really love. And their group, which towards the end of the movie you find out some interesting things about who they are. That is compelling and makes really gives the movie a wonderful ending. I like these bad guys and their motivations, and it's my number one pick. Star Trek Insurrection really does work for me as the most Star Trek film, the most Star Trek-y Trek film, the one that feels the most like all of the things that I love about the show. Donna Murphy plays what is it? Energy? I forget how to pronounce her name, but I think that's the lady who I found so attractive in the film, and she just is representative of this culture and this wisdom that is simply beautiful. I just wanted to marry her or somebody like him, like her, and I think my girlfriend Julie really embodies that a lot. So maybe I somehow found somebody like that. Some of the coolest things about Star Trek Insurrection is, as I said already a few times, but I just want to reiterate, it's the one that feels the most like a giant episode of The Next Generation, but with a movie scale, which makes it just epic and incredible. Picard becomes romantic adventurer in this movie, and the Baku planet feels genuinely peaceful and wonderful, somewhere you'd want to live and somewhere you'd want to raise your kids. The data malfunctioning sequences are hilarious and gives Brett Spiner a lot of great things to do, which I believe as an actor he was always asking for on the series because his character was a little stiff. So any opportunity that he had to do anything, outside of pretending to be a robot, he was really down for. Jerry Goldsmith's score is beautiful. The Enterprise E has never looked better. And the themes of immortality and exploitation are peak Trek morality. And, of course, the crew chemistry is incredibly warm, as we got Jonathan Frakes behind the camera, and he is wonderful at just making sure that always came through. And I thank you, Jonathan Frakes, for doing such a great job with this movie. And whoever pushed for this to be the the follow up to First Contact, which I loved as well. Good on you guys. I'm so glad that you guys chose something like this. There's always been so much pressure on Star Trek to make it more like Star Wars. And this one, my roommate Digger, who's very action oriented and, felt that this movie is one of his least favorite. He doesn't like this one, but I do. I love this one. This one means a lot to me and represents everything that I care about when it comes to Star Trek. I think a lot of fans wanted giant galaxy-ending stakes, but Insurrection instead asks, what if Star Trek was just humane? And for some fans, that's real Trek. All right. Next up on the list We have Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. The Cold War is ending in space after a catastrophic disaster cripples the Klingon Empire. The Federation and Klingons attempt to negotiate peace for the first time in generations, but old hatred, conspiracy, and fear threaten to destroy everything. This is still a original series, or I should say, this is the first one of the original series that is on my list. But this sixth was the final of the original crew films. And Kirk is forced to confront his own prejudices towards the Klingons after years of war and loss, while Spock tries to guide both civilizations towards a future neither side fully trusts yet. It's part murder mystery, part political thriller, part elegy for aging heroes facing the end of their era, as we would shortly after this move on to a new crew. And it's smart, emotional, and unbelievably well written. I'd only ever seen most of these original Trek films once, but I must say I enjoyed the hell out of my second viewing of all but Star Trek V. That's the one that William Shatner directed. Though I did enjoy making fun of absolutely every terrible choice made by William Shatner as the director. It has his stupid, superficial, egotistical fingerprints all over it. What a truly bad movie that was. Yikes. But we will talk about that in a bit. It's probably not worse than Section 31, though, which is, I mean, I'll never know for sure because I have not watched it or any other Alex Kurtzman-produced Star Trek since the abortion that was the pilot for Star Trek Discovery, which introduced the concept of the Federation's Black Ops Division, because apparently in Kurtzman's version of a utopian future, human beings suck just as badly then as they do right now on Earth at this very moment. This decision turned me, and I would say every real fan of Star Trek, off in a motherfucking instance. I will never watch any Kurtzman Trek or any new Star Trek until he is removed. Full stop. Rant over. I do actually enjoy the 3 J.J. Abrams produced films. Such an amazing job with the casting there. Even the third film. But they are light on the intelligence of the many different Star Trek series that made me fall in love with this franchise in the first place. But we'll talk about those when they eventually show up on this list in a little bit. But now, back to Star Trek VI, arguably the best Star Trek film for the widest audience, and probably the one to show to your friends if you're hoping on getting them into Star Trek through one of these films instead of the series itself, which I would definitely recommend getting them into Star Trek through the series itself and not the films. But if you were going to try to get somebody into Star Trek through a film, Star Trek VI is probably the way to go. So number 2 on my list, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. It's directed by Nicholas Meyer, written by Nicholas Meyer and Denny Martin Flynn, story by Leonard Nimoy. Now, who is Nicholas Meyer? He is the man many fans believe saved the Trek films, and I will certainly credit him for that in terms of being able to make the series commercial at the film box office. He's best known for having directed Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and this one, The Undiscovered Country. Meyer transformed Trek into naval warfare, political thriller, literary science fiction, and a drama about aging, because by this time, the original crew of the Star Trek Enterprise were aging, and it was sort of necessary to bring that aspect into the storytelling. But he also brought a lot of Shakespeare and Cold War allegory, tactical realism, emotional maturity. And honestly, without Meyer, the Trek films might not have survived. We might not have all these Trek films that we have. So before we talk any more about the movie, I really think we should let me introduce you to the crew, the original crew of the Starship Enterprise. William Shatner, Kirk, ego, instinct, courage, charisma. Leonard Nimoy as Spock, who is, of course, the soul of Star Trek. DeForest Kelley as Bones. Dr. McCoy, who is, humanity incarnate. Years later with Star Trek Enterprise, the series, I really fell in love with Trip Tucker because he just embodied human beings going into space for the first time and sort of just being shocked to discover so many things and constantly making mistakes, but humanizing the whole crew. And before he did it, Bones definitely was the human factor on the Starship Enterprise. Of course, you got James Doohan as Montgomery Scott, the miracle worker engineer. Gotta love me some Scotty. For those of you who don't remember, didn't watch the original show, Nimoy, Shatner, and DeForest Kelley, they were the stars. Everybody else was kind of bit players. But the second most screen time was for Scotty, and he was the most fun, really, to be had on the show for me. I just always loved when Scotty would show up and just his accent and delivery of lines and stuff. It's become some of the most quotable bits of Star Trek is just saying things that Scotty might say. I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. Just some great bits. Beyond Doohan, next up was Nichelle Nichols, who plays Lieutenant Uhura, who's the communications officer, made really kind of famous in mockery through Sigourney Weaver's Galaxy Quest character, who always just repeated what the computer said, which is essentially what Nichelle Nichols did as well, but you wouldn't hear the computer say it first. She would be communicating with the computer with the little earpiece in, and she would tell you what the computer was saying. But oh man, I loved the lampooning of that idea that really all she was doing was reading to us what the computer had said, like a telephone operator. But Nichelle Nichols was representation before there was any representation on TV of significance, and a representation in equality on a starship in the future. What a wonderful thing. So inspiring for so many people at the time. And, as somebody who grew up on Star Trek, was one of those things that contributed to me not even being aware that there was such a thing as racism or anything. Because, I watch Star Trek and there's all sorts of people represented in that. And I like the X-Men and there's all sorts of people represented in that. I used to, as a kid, I would watch The Honeymooners as a little kid. I'm 43. The Honeymooners was on reruns, and the original series, long before Next Generation came out, was in reruns and would play right after The Honeymooners. And usually I would fall asleep before Star Trek ended, but I would watch the first 5-10 minutes of every episode of Star Trek as it came on, and I loved the beautiful depiction of the future where we were exploring and we'd come together. And granted, I didn't even know what a big deal that was at the time. It just seemed like, of course, in the future, things will be better. Next up, we got George Takei, who barely gets any fucking screen time. I mean, as these films progressed, they always made sure to give them more screen time, more and more screen time. But really, you don't get a lot of time with a lot of these characters, and it's I don't remember that until I go back and rewatch it, and I'm like, oh man, that's right. You barely get any George Takei saying "Hey now," not that he says "Hey now" on the show, but George Takei is like the helmsman piloting the ship, and when he does have his moments, they're excellent. And finally, Walter Koenig as the nervous genius navigator. Chekhov with his wonderful Beatles haircut, and a great thing there, the Russian, as we're in a Cold War, but in the future, no, there's no Cold War. We're all together up in space exploring things. What makes the original crew so special is, or I should say, within the context of these films, is that the films became a lot about aging, mortality, friendship, legacy, and refusing irrelevance. It just was like something that had to be acknowledged because so much time went by before these films started to be made. And then as time went on, the crew was really getting up there in years in some cases. I mean, it's really kind of silly as you get even to this sixth movie, everybody's developing some big guts and not necessarily looking like the most athletic people on planet Earth. But by the end, they feel the crew of the Enterprise feel less like TV characters and a lot more like old war heroes. Some of the important supporting cast in this film is Christopher Plummer as General Chang, and he's excellent. Kim Cattrall as Valeris. She rules my school as well. Some of the coolest things about The Undiscovered Country is it is by far the best political thriller in Star Trek. It's a total fall of the Soviet Union allegory. You got a Shakespeare-obsessed Klingon who really becomes iconic within the context of the film. Christopher Plummer's performance is excellent. There's an incredible dinner scene that is just filled with tension where the Klingons are sitting down with the Federation for the first time with still a lot of bad blood across the table. This really sets up the Next Generation. The Next Generation would not have been as glorious without this film, because it really just moved forward the lore of the Federation, and the Next Generation lived in the lore that this film established, where the Klingons were now part of the Federation. In fact, they even had a Klingon who had joined the Federation, Worf, who's on the bridge. And without this movie, none of that stuff would have been possible. And really, having Worf in the cast for Next Generation is one of the most important and greatest things about why Star Trek The Next Generation feels so great, because it feels like there's history, it feels like there's legacy. Just being able to gesture back to the fact that Worf's race used to be a constant villain, a constant adversary to the Federation, and was now working in cooperation with them. It really is important to the franchise. And even in this movie, you have a appearance by Michael Dorn, who plays Worf, as he is like a lawyer, essentially, when William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy's characters are being put... Is it Nimoy with him? I'm forgetting now. But Captain Kirk is being put on trial by the Klingons, and Worf plays one of the lawyers that is assigned to him to represent him in the Klingon, law chamber. I don't know what you want to call it. The murder mystery structure in this movie works perfectly. It really is kind of like, to a certain degree, like a perfect film. Just all the beats are really right. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Perfect is maybe a step too far, but it's excellent. Really, really is. And this is your final goodbye to the original crew, and it is emotional. Chang is definitely one of the best Star Trek villains ever, and the final signatures over the credits hits hard. It's almost unfortunate that William Shatner comes back for Generations, because, man, they do not send him out on the highest note. I'm really, really bothered, actually, by Star Trek Generations. And even though me and Digger Mesh do not agree about Insurrection being one of the greatest Star Trek films ever made, we do both agree about how upsetting we find the end of Star Trek Generation to be. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Alrighty. At number 3, as I mentioned earlier, another one of my favorites here is Star Trek First Contact. The Borg travel through time to stop humanity from ever becoming the Federation by preventing Earth's first contact with the Vulcans after the invention of the warp drive. Picard and the Enterprise crew chase them into Earth's past, while Picard himself slowly spirals into obsession and rage because the Borg violated him in ways he has not emotionally recovered from. And there's a really great scene in the movie where he's like over the top, and he says something to fucking Worf that is just messed up. He calls him a coward, and Worf says, "If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand." It's a great line. And a great line because he's had so much time and experience with Picard, and they have so much respect for each other. And Picard literally calls him a coward, and he's being unreasonable. Picard's being unreasonable. He apologizes later. Oof. Meanwhile, within the context of the story, you got humanity's future is literally resting on one flawed, drunken genius scientist who somehow successfully launched mankind into the future with the first warp flight. And this movie just perfectly balances action, humor, character drama, and classic Trek optimism. Again, we got Jonathan Frakes directing. It's written by Brannon Braga and Ronald D. Moore. You got James Cromwell incredibly playing Zephram Cochrane. It's great. Also, Alice Krieg in a supporting role as one of Cochrane's kind of buddies. Actually, no. That's I'm switching up the actors. Alice Krieg plays the Borg Queen. Cochrane is one of the most important humans in Trek history, and it's very interesting to have this story told. He's the inventor of warp drive, whose first warp flight brings humanity into contact with the Vulcans. And, there's some really cool stuff going on in this flick. It's the peak Borg horror, some of the best Borg scenes and Borg stuff that we got from the Next Generation. Mostly you see the Borg in the Next Generation series, but in this film, a lot of it is just truly next level. You got Picard's trauma becoming a central part to the story, and that was one of the more visceral, emotional things from the series. So it was great for that to continue on here. The Enterprise E battle is legendary here. The Borg Queen is sick looking, and the performance is awesome. The line must be drawn here. Alfre Woodard is fantastic. Combines horror, action, and philosophy. It's arguably the best The Next Generation film ever made, in terms of a more film kind of thing. If you're going to compare this to Star Trek, Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, which I said, kind of more the one to show people for, especially the original films, is Undiscovered Country before Insurrection. As a fan, as somebody who loves Star Trek, as somebody who loves Star Trek for the deep philosophical meaning behind it, Insurrection's the best one for me. But as a film to show a stranger, for the original series, you want to show them The Undiscovered Country. For the Next Generation series, you want to show them First Contact. And then maybe, if they really like First Contact, then show them Insurrection. And if they like Star Trek in the way that I like Star Trek, and maybe you like Star Trek, they'll love Insurrection as well. Okay. Moving into the number 4 position, and we're finally getting into some of the J.J. Abrams produced Star Trek, and I'm talking about the very first one, Star Trek. A Romulan from the future named Nero travels backwards through time after a personal tragedy and accidentally creates an entirely new alternate Star Trek timeline where young Kirk, Spock, and the original Enterprise crew all meet under completely different circumstances. Kirk is reckless and directionless, Spock is emotionally fractured, and the Federation itself feels more vulnerable than ever before. The movie basically asks, are these people destined to become heroes no matter what universe they exist in? It's emotional, funny, energetic, and one of the best reboot films Hollywood ever made. Truly. It's really the best compliment that I can give it. It, rebooted the franchise with a plum. How do you pronounce that word? When you do a lot of reading and you don't know how to pronounce words out loud. Directed by J.J. Abrams, written by Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci. I don't know what happened to Kurtzman. He just got worse and worse after he left these 3 films. But J.J. Abrams, he revitalized a dead franchise. He's best known for Lost, which, oh God, Lost starts so good and gets so terrible. Mission Impossible 3, which is awesome. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. which is like a bad version of this, probably why they gave him the job. But oh god, he did a great job here. His Trek reboot modernized the franchise and successfully injected some of that Star Wars magic into Star Trek, and he made Star Trek mainstream again. Introducing the Kelvin timeline, which was included the original Spock, who existed coming over from the original timeline. So it's interesting because it made all that stuff still canon, still exist, whilst giving us an opportunity to see a whole new crew with the same names and the same positions on the Star Trek Enterprise. And this movie definitely emphasized the emotional blockbuster storytelling, and it succeeds less and less as it goes on with these three movies, but it really succeeds here. The Kelvin timeline crew of the Enterprise is incredible. The casting for this movie is just really mind-blowing, honestly, just how perfectly everybody is cast and just how well everybody showed up and played their parts. Chris Pine as the reckless young Kirk is excellent and way more believable as an action star than William Shatner ever was. Zachary Quinto as the emotionally conflicted Spock is awesome. The unsure footing that they all have, or Spock and Kirk in particular, sort of coming into contact with one another under much different circumstances than they did in the series. In the old series, they were already friends. This time around, under some really difficult circumstances, they have to learn to respect each other, and it's excellent. And Carl Urban, I love Carl Urban. He's just so great, from Lord of the Rings, playing Lord Horsemaster. That's the dwarf like to call him, the Horsemaster. I just love him, and just over the time, he's shown up in so many great pieces of myth that I enjoy, and every time he shows up, he does a great job. Whether it's his Judge Dredd or in The Boys, he rules my school, Carl Urban, and just an unbelievably accurate Bones energy. And even the first introduction, I don't know if they ever showed it in the original series, not that I remember how he got the name Bones, but in the movie, he says he had a divorce and she took everything. All he had left was his bones. And then later Kirk calls him Bones. And I just think that's so great. Zoe Saldana totally leveling up the part of Uhura. Simon Pegg playing Scotty in absolute engineering brilliance. John Cho as our modern day calm, cool Sulu at the helm. Anton Yelchin, who I love Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. What a loss. He was such a great actor as the lovable genius. I don't know what his technical role on the ship is, actually. Is he comms? No, that's Uhura. Not sure. I'm actually kind of blanking out. What is that role? Anyway, also you got Bruce Greenwood in there, who plays mentor to the captain. Eric Bana playing the villain role as Nero. He's excellent. Leonard Nimoy as Spock Prime. And Chris Hemsworth in a little mini role at the very beginning of the film, playing Kirk's dad right as he dies, as his kid is being born in the first few minutes of the movie, because of the changing to the timeline. So literally the timeline changes and Kirk's dad dies and everything adjusts from there. And quite a cool premise, quite a simple way to just, kick off this new Star Trek universe, and how does that change everything? And a lot of the ways that it changes things initially are awesome and super compelling. Granted, where this goes after the movies, I will never go. I have never gone before, and I shall not ever go. Waiting for them to reboot the whole thing, and then I will be back for some more great Star Trek. Some of the coolest things to share with you. like I said, one of the best franchise reboots ever, period. The recasting was shockingly successful. The opening scene is emotionally devastating to the audience and really kicks the movie off. I mean, honestly, the opening scene, I think, is what makes the movie as great as it is. It just really makes you feel something. And everything that comes after that matters because of the opening scene. Giacchino, who did the score, very iconic, wonderful. The Kirk-Spock chemistry instantly works. Whether they're warring with each other or whether they're coming to respect each other, it's really, really excellent. This successfully brought Star Trek back to theaters. It didn't last that long, but it's excellent, really a feat and a half. The Enterprise redesign became legendary, and this really successfully balanced fandom nostalgia with accessibility to a new and wider audience, which was something that Star Trek had always tried to achieve but had failed time and time again at achieving. So kudos to J.J. Abrams here. This is really the crown. The gem in his crown. I don't know what's that saying. It was a crowning achievement for him. Really impressive that he was able to do this. All right. At number 5, we got Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. I love this movie. Earth is being destroyed by a mysterious alien probe searching for humpback whales, except humanity accidentally made humpback whales extinct centuries ago. So Kirk and crew literally steal a Klingon bird of prey and time travel back to 1980s San Francisco to kidnap whales and save the future. This movie should not work as well as it does. But somehow it becomes one of the funniest, most charming, and most lovable Star Trek movies ever made because it fully embraces the weird humanity of the crew. And, usually speaking, it's like, oh, we're going to do that thing that you like, except like Masters of the Universe, but we're going to put them on Earth. Ugh, like make me vomit. But here it just works, man. It really does. It works awesome. The film's directed by Leonard Nimoy, and again, having a cast member direct your movie, good. It's written by Harv Bennett and Leonard Nimoy, story by Leonard Nimoy, Harv Bennett, and Steve Mearson, Peter Krikes. Leonard Nimoy, you should know by now, is Spock, and he became one of Trek's most important creative voices behind the camera. He directed The Search for Spock, which is the third one, and Star Trek for The Voyage Home. And The Voyage Home is the one that really hits the sweet spot for me, even though The Search for Spock I don't think is total crap. Nimoy understood the warmth, humor, environmental themes that mattered to the audience who was into Trek. And of course, the emotional storytelling for the characters. Voyage Home became one of the biggest mainstream hits of the original Trek films, partly because Nimoy realized that audience loved the crew as much as they loved the sci-fi. And he really just succeeds here. The humanity on display, the humor, everything about this movie just really hits the spot. It's very enjoyable. It's like a favorite film of mine. Amongst these, this is where we're about to move into the realm of movies that I like a lot, but I don't necessarily have like a sweet spot memory for. This top 5 here is really my favorite of these movies and the ones that I would most recommend to just about anybody. Catherine Hicks, who plays Dr. Gillian Taylor, who's a whale biologist or specialist. I don't know if she's technically a biologist, but she's working with the whales trying to save them. It's great. Her performance is great, and Kirk hitting on her and everything is really fun. Some of the coolest things I can share with you are, it's the funniest Star Trek movie ever made, for one. Saving whales somehow becomes emotionally sincere. And at the time when people were thinking about saving whales, it really kind of hit a sweet spot. Double dumbass on you. Scotty inventing transparent aluminum for them to get some money is really just awesome stuff, sharing it with some local engineers. Spock learning human behavior is adorable and covering up his pointy ears with a little headband. It's very classic seeing Spock with that headband on so nobody knows that he's actually a Vulcan. And funny that all you have to do to make him look human is just cover up the ears. which is just very funny to me. And San Francisco really becomes a character in and of itself. And San Francisco very much is a character within the Star Trek mythology and as just a progressive place where things might progress in the future. It always made sense to me at the time, anyway. And the time travel comedy, it just works perfectly. It's just, this whole movie is pure optimistic joy. And as a pure optimist myself, I love it. I just enjoy every minute of it. My girlfriend was asking me, like, what are we going to watch? What Star Trek movie should I watch? And this one is possibly the one that I'm going to start her off with. Finally, I just want to say that this movie proved that Trek could succeed without giant battles, revenge plots, villains, just great characters and big heart. And it does. It succeeds on every level. Now, the Star Trek movie that is usually cited as the major Star Trek movie, the one that everybody fucking loves, is my number 6 pick, and I think it's a good movie. There are aspects of it that I think are like cheesy or whatever else, but I do think it's a pretty solid sci-fi movie, and usually would be much higher on other people's lists, just not on mine, but I think it's excellent. And that is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And maybe if it wasn't built up for me so much, and like it wasn't lauded as like the great Star Trek film that so many of them are compared to, I would have liked it more. But Kirk, older now and quietly wrestling with aging and regret, comes face to face with Khan Noonien Singh, a genetically engineered superhuman from his past, from a previous episode of the series, who escaped exile and dedicates his entire life to revenge. And what follows is basically a submarine warfare movie in space with two brilliant captains hunting each other through the stars while themes of mortality, sacrifice, and legacy slowly consume the whole story. This is the film that transformed Star Trek into serious cinematic science fiction after the first film didn't exactly set the world on fire. Even though I've come to really appreciate the first film, and my second viewing of it really changed my whole view of it. I thought it was kind of boring, but I really philosophically really like that one. We'll get to that one in a second. Once again, this was directed by Nicholas Meyer, but it was written by Jack B. Soward, and directed with major uncredited script influence from Meyer, who, of course, had a big hand in writing the sixth one, The Undiscovered Country, which I think is the best of these originals, the original cast Star Treks. Some important supporting cast, you got Ricardo Montalban as Khan Noonien Singh, and Bibi Besh, as Carol Marcus. Khan originally appeared in the classic TV episode Space Seed. The coolest stuff about this guy is, it's considered the definitive Star Trek film by many fans. Khan's one of sci-fi's great villains, period. And Kirk confronting aging and failure in the film really adds a lot of depth to this whole thing. Horner's score is phenomenal. Naval warfare, submarine-style combat change sci-fi here. It's really, really well done. And Spock's, I don't want to spoil the ending, but there's a major sacrificial moment that happens here, and it's, this traumatized fandom for forever. And I think it'll still play just as well for you if I am spoiling anything, but maybe you'll forget by the time you go and check out this film. Motora Nebula battle is in this film, and it's some genius filmmaking. And of course, you have the famous Khan line in the movie. From a fan perspective, this is the film that transformed Trek movies from expensive TV episodes that some people were making fun of into some serious cinematic science fiction that the people who were too cool for Trek previously were finally coming around to have an appreciation for. It's some excellent science fiction filmmaking. At number 7 for myself, and I actually, when I went to go rewatch all of these movies, I thought this was going to be much lower on my list because at the time I saw it in theaters, I was really bummed out. But I've come to like it more, I guess. Star Trek Nemesis. Picard discovers a younger clone of himself named Shinzon has seized power within the Romulan Empire and plans to use a terrifying superweapon against Earth. The movie becomes a dark mirror story about identity, destiny, and what separates noble men from broken ones. Meanwhile, Data forms a strong connection with a primitive android prototype of himself as the crew slowly realizes this may be their final mission together. It's bleak, it's strange, and surprisingly emotional, and upon a second viewing, if you're somebody like me who saw it the first time and was like, meh, you may want to go back and give it another chance, because it was, I don't know, it just hit me a lot harder than it had hit me the first time I watched it. It's directed by Stuart Baird, written by John Logan. And John Logan's an acclaimed screenwriter known for Gladiator, Skyfall, The Aviator. He attempted to bring a darker psychological theme into Star Trek, and the first time I saw it, it didn't really work for me, but it did this time around. Tom Hardy's performance as Shinzon, the clone of Picard, is really unhinged and great. You gotta love Tom Hardy. And Ron Perlman as the Riemann Viceroy. He's like the alien. Essentially, there's like this slave class on Romulan that they have, and Picard's clone leads a revolt. And the leader of the aliens, who are the slave class, is played by Ron Perlman. You can't tell it's him, really. I mean, I could tell it's him underneath the makeup. But he's awesome. I love Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman's always great under some great makeup. Some of the coolest things about it, I mean, young Tom Hardy, it's fascinating to watch. Shinzon, the mirror to Picard concept, is compelling. Data's final sacrifice is really emotional and excellent in the movie. The scimitar is terrifying. One of Trek's best ship battles. Period. I mean, really, really some cool stuff. I mean, some of the... I had admitted at the time that I saw it that the movie contained 3 of the coolest scenes that I had ever seen in any Star Trek period, including one scene where the front of the ship of the Enterprise has been ripped off, and Data jumps from out of the hole of the front of the ship onto the other ship, the bad guy ship in the movie. And the bad guy ship in the movie is quite frightening. Really, for those of you who didn't like it the first time you watched it, go back and watch it again. You're going to find that it's a lot better than you remember, especially by today's standards of shit that they've been fucking feeding us at cinemas. It's really great. It's definitely the darkest of the Next Generation movies by far, even though there's a Borg movie. But that is a lot of hopefulness to it. This one is really dark and compelling. Some great Worf moments in here as well. It's always wonderful seeing how they're going to take Worf from where he was, because he was on Deep Space Nine, and bring him back into the film. But by this time, I don't think they even spent any time telling us why Worf was there. Of course he's there. And you've got Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes characters, number 2, and Counselor Troy getting hitched in this movie, which is like a great, just a wonderful, satisfying thing for their will they, won't they romance that goes on throughout the series. And I was always so in love with Deanna Troy, the ship's counselor, just her empathy and sweetness that she brought to the role. And she's such a beautiful lady. So that was very satisfying as a fan. The Romulan politics are definitely interesting here. And, it's the Next Generation film, so it carries a melancholy weight to it, because that's it. That's all you're going to get. From a fan perspective, I'd say that, many fans hated this movie originally, just like me. But over time, its tragic tone and the ambitious ideas in it have gained defenders, and I am one of them. At number 8, we've got the remake of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek Into Darkness. After a devastating terrorist attack against Starfleet, Kirk and the Enterprise are sent on a dangerous mission to hunt down a mysterious superhuman named John Harrison, who, of course, turns out to actually be Khan. The movie explores militarization, vengeance, and fear, pushing the Federation towards becoming something darker. It's huge, emotional blockbuster trek with massive action set pieces and some very divisive reinterpretations of classic material. Granted, I don't think so much of this these reinterpretations would be so divisive still, if not for the fact that Alex Kurtzman's Star Trek continued to double down on all this shit after these films were done. And you know, it was okay to explore this darkness, but to go back to the light by the time it was over. It's not okay to keep that fucking Black Ops division alive and well in the Kelvin universe. And as far as I'm concerned, that killed the Kelvin universe for me. And you have these 3 films, and then that's it. I'm out. Directed by J.J. Abrams, written again by Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci, and Damon Lindelof now on this one. Some important supporting casts. As Khan this time around, we got Benedict Cumberbatch, who I think his performance is pretty cool. Alice Eve as Carol Marcus, who plays the daughter of Admiral Marcus, who's played by Peter Weller, who's great. It's a solid offering. Some of the coolest things, absolutely gorgeous visuals. Maybe a little bit too much of that reflected light thing that J.J. Abrams was loving to do. Apparently, in the future, everything is blinding. The Enterprise falling through the Earth atmosphere is pretty unforgettable. Cumberbatch dominates every scene that he's in. The warp speed action scenes are insane. There's warp speed, and there's another ship catching up to them and attacking them while they're in warp, which is pretty cool. There's a bunch of emotional Kirk and Spock scenes, essentially the biggest being the inversion of the classic Wrath of Khan scene that Spock has. Now it's Kirk in the same position that Spock was in the previous in the original series film. Much larger scale than the 2009 film just called Star Trek, and this explores the militarization of Starfleet, but in a way where it feels like it's been stopped and things are going to go back to being not dark. And once again, Giacchino's score continues to fucking crush. From the fan perspective, the Khan reveal, it became one of the more divisive moments in Trek history. Some fans loved the reinterpretation, but others thought, you can't casually remake Wrath of Khan. But at the same time, I thought that they did something good here, by going back to that story and retelling it, but because it's a new universe, flopping around some of the more iconic bits to it, I do think it works, and I like this movie. All right, at number 9, we've got Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which honestly, when I first saw this years ago, I thought it lived up to the hype of how boring it was, and I wasn't exactly into it, but coming around and watching it years later, I really enjoyed it and felt like it was meaningful, and it really moved me. A gigantic, mysterious alien intelligence called Viger approaches Earth with godlike power, forcing Kirk and the newly refitted Enterprise to intercept it before humanity is destroyed. But the deeper they travel into the heart of this impossible machine entity, the more the story becomes about consciousness, evolution, loneliness, and humanity's relationship with technology itself. It's slow, it's cerebral, and visually hypnotic sci-fi. Like, it is really genuinely a beautiful movie. Really beautiful. Directed by Robert Weiss, written by Harold Livingston, story by Alan Dean Foster. And Robert Weiss is one of the most respected directors ever to work on Star Trek. He's best known for The Day the Earth Stood Still, West Side Story, The Sound of Music. His involvement gave Trek enormous legitimacy as cinema. And some supporting cast members, the additional for this movie, you've got Persis Kahambata as Ilia, who apparently she was like a big deal model at the time. I didn't know this, but Digger pointed that out to me. I didn't know. I was much younger than he is, so I didn't have that experience knowing that she was this beautiful model, and she's a very beautiful lady, and she's got a very exotic look. And she gets taken over by the Viger personality. And then there's Stephen Collins, long before Party of Five, as Decker. And their relationship and romance is great. You know, basically Decker gets thrown out of the captain's chair by William Shatner, but asked to stay on. And it's a good dynamic and tension between them and stuff. Some of the coolest things that I can share with you about this one. It's definitely the most cerebral Trek film ever made. It really is. Trippy, psychedelic kind of sci-fi flick. And if that sounds cool to you, you'll probably like it. It's a little slow for me. But again, the second time around, I don't know, maybe being a little bit older or whatever, I appreciated it and appreciated kind of how long it was staying on certain things. Even though at the same time I was like, I could have cut this movie down just a little bit and made it more enjoyable for most people. Viger feels genuinely cosmic and alien. The reveal of what Viger really is quite interesting, and I won't spoil it here. The Enterprise refit reveal is iconic. Jerry Goldsmith's score is transcendent. There's a massive visual ambition in the whole movie. I mean, really, one thing after another, especially just as they're exploring Viger, going into him, and all of the visuals that come up are just super psychedelic and beautiful. And it feels like really philosophical science fiction. In an even more heady way than Star Trek Insurrection, which I think is also a action movie and has stuff going on in it. This is a little bit more heady, but it's great. Spock's emotional journey is beautiful, and there's just deep humanity meets machine consciousness kind of themes going on, which are always cool. And some of the things that Star Trek has done best over the years with Data and here, and with the Borg and other things. There's a lot of examples. Or the Robert Picardo's Doctor from Star Trek Voyager. I love Robert Picardo. That's like one of my favorite aspects of Star Trek Voyager is the Doctor. Originally criticized by fans as slow, increasingly, I believe I'm not the only person who appreciates its ambition and how kind of beautiful and hypnotic and majestic it is. It's definitely a contemplative science fiction film, and worthy of your time, and worthy of a view if you become a Star Trek fan. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best one to watch first, but it is worthy. All right, at number 10, and we're getting into our final four here. We've got Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And maybe this is a little boring, but it is a solid centerpiece to the Star Trek II through Star Trek IV Spock, Death, Search, and Rebirth trilogy that they made. After Spock's death in Wrath of Khan, you got Kirk and the crew risking everything to recover his body and discover whether their friend might somehow still be alive on the unstable Genesis planet. Starfleet refuses to help them, so the crew literally steals the Enterprise in one of the most emotionally satisfying acts of rebellion in the franchise. And this movie really is about friendship and loyalty above all else, and I think that's what makes it work well. The Wrath of Khan and The Journey Home are the better movies here, but as a middle piece to that, this has plenty to offer. It's directed by Leonard Nimoy, written by Harve Bennett, and Harve Bennett, he is the producer who reshaped the Trek films after the motion picture. He oversaw 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I really think he did largely a pretty great job. I mean, contractually obligated to let Kirk direct 5, so we won't blame him for that. But Bennett understood that Trek needed tighter budgets, stronger characters, and emotional continuity. He helped define the identity of movie-era Trek, and bringing in great villains. Like in this one, you've got Krug, I don't forget how to pronounce it, but played by Christopher Lloyd. Oh man, Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon. Fuck yeah, I love Christopher Lloyd. He's great in everything, and he was great in this movie as well. Some cool things of note, Kirk stealing the Enterprise is legendary and excellent. Enterprise self-destruct scene really fucking hurts every time. As I said, Christopher Lloyd as a villain, as a Klingon villain, is excellent. The emotional continuation of Star Trek Wrath of Khan really works as well. That movie ended on such a emotional beat, and this just picks up where it left off, and you're still feeling all the same things. And I think that is a testament to the film itself, really, that it manages to keep that tension going. The Genesis Planet visuals are bizarre and cool. The friendship friendship as a general theme of the movie is really important and key to why this all works so well. Kirk and McCoy, and then their desire and their drive to get Spock back. It all, touches you in the feels, man. And that great line, because the needs of the one. And the flipping of because the needs of the one are less than the needs of the many, and switching it to because the needs of the one are more important than the needs of the many. How important is the one when it's your friend, when it's somebody who matters to you. Damn it, I'm getting choked up again. This movie proved that Trek films could have serialized emotional storytelling long before cinematic universes became normal, and even long before the partially serialized storytelling of The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. It really sets the tone for the future of Star Trek. All right, at number 11, and now we're kind of getting into the ones that I don't love as much. I remembered liking Star Trek Beyond, but not necessarily loving it. And actually, my follow-up viewing of it, I think this is just my second time watching it, I liked it less. The Enterprise is ambushed and destroyed by a mysterious alien warlord named Krall, leaving the crew stranded and separated on a distant planet. As Kirk wrestles with whether exploration still gives his life meaning, the crew has to reunite and stop Krall from unleashing a devastating bioweapon. Weirdly enough, this is probably the Kelvin timeline movie that feels most like classic Star Trek adventures, but at the same time, diluted by lots of fucking just movement. It's just like from one set piece to another. Lots of things don't really make sense. It just doesn't seem important or interesting enough in a lot of ways, and just seems a lot like style over substance. There are some things to like about it. Still, the crew is amazing. The performances are amazing. You really like spending time with the people that they cast for the new crew of the Enterprise. But yeah, this movie just really doesn't exactly do it for me. It's directed by Justin Lin. It's written by Simon Pegg and Doug Jung. Justin Lin is best known for the Fast and the Furious franchise, Fast 5 and other ones. I think he also did the Tokyo Drift, was where he started there, and went on to do Aquaman and some other things. And Lin brought speed and energy and practical action and strong ensemble pacing with this final entry in this Kelvin timeline film series of 3. But it just doesn't excite. There wasn't enough to get people into the theaters. And it, like I said, there's a lot going on. But at the same time, they blow up the ship within the first fucking 20 minutes. And you're like, there's no ship? And, they come back around, they get on another ship. It introduces a really interesting character, Jayla, who has a great visual. I really like her visual, and I like the character, played by Sophia Botella. Idris Elba's Krall, who's the bad guy, just is not particularly good. I mean, Idris Elba's great. They just didn't really give him much to do. But it's watchable. It's not complete ass, but it's not great. Some of the coolest things I can mention about it, Jayla definitely becomes an instant fan favorite. You're gonna like Jayla. She looks good. She's a cool character. She's sweet. The Enterprise's destruction towards the beginning of the movie is shocking. The Yorktown Station visuals are really beautiful. The crew chemistry is just great, like it has been for the other two movies. They did a great job casting, and it just kind of keeps maturing. They go back and they reuse the exact same fucking Beastie Boys song for this movie. It works really well, but I think there probably would have been another Beastie Boys song that they could have used instead. And I mean, but still, the Beastie Boys attack scene is ridiculous fun. It's Anton Yelchin's final performance, so that adds a little emotion to it. I was really very bummed out when he passed away. He's a really great young actor. If you've never seen the movie Charlie Bartlett, that has him and a smaller role for Robert Downey Jr., it's like a I don't know, kind of like a Ferris Bueller, a modern day Ferris Bueller. It was an excellent movie, really worth checking out. And he's done a bunch of movies that are really worth checking out. Rest in peace to Anton. A lot of fans believe Beyond finally balanced modern blockbuster action with classic Trek spirit, but I don't feel that way as strongly. I just don't think it's smart enough. I think they were trying to. I think Simon Pegg really was attempting to do some of that, but I don't really think in execution it plays that way. And, this is the bottom three for me. My third least favorite of all the Star Trek films. And but still watchable. All right, at number 12, we've got Star Trek Generations, which is perhaps still watchable, but maybe shut it off before it fucking ends. Captain Picard encounters a scientist obsessed with entering an extra-dimensional paradise called the Nexus, where people can live inside their perfect reality for forever. For the man who has everything, much? I think so. That's an Alan Moore story about Superman, where Batman and Wonder Woman show up at the Fortress of Solitude to give him a birthday present. He's already been gifted the Black Mercy by Mongol, which is putting him into a false reality that's giving him everything he's ever wanted. Very similar thing going on here. Along the way, Picard meets Captain Kirk himself in one of the biggest crossover moments in sci-fi history, which is great. The movie is basically about loss, time, regret, and learning that life only has meaning because it eventually ends. Unfortunately for me, this movie will always be a disappointment, not just for its ending and the way they send freaking Captain Kirk out, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but just they had an opportunity to cross over the original cast with the new cast, the next generation cast with the original cast. Everybody, Scotty and Sulu and Uhura, and they don't. There's a few of the characters that make brief appearances. Not even everybody shows up. Spock does not show up in this. And that, to me, was just a real missed opportunity. That would have been really cool, to just have moments where everybody was interacting with each other. Where Nimoy and number 2, Jonathan Frakes' character, were together. Where Scotty and LeVar Burton's character were together. Where you had Data and Uhura and McCoy and McFadden. Just all, I would have loved to have seen them all get the ability to interact with one another instead of just Kirk and Picard. And it just feels like a love letter to freaking Captain Kirk that they really botch. By the end of it, they just really fuck it up so badly, and because we missed the opportunity to get that crossover with the full crews of both starships, what a missed opportunity this movie becomes for me. It's directed by David Carson, written by Ronald D. Moore and Brannon Braga. Malcolm McDowell it plays Dr. Soren as he's the bad guy in the movie, and he's good. He's a good bad guy. Malcolm McDowell's definitely got like an intense craziness to him that fits the Star Trek villain, vibe. But this movie just falls short in a lot of ways. However, there's some cool things about it. Kirk meeting Picard is fucking nerd mythology. The Enterprise D crash definitely has become iconic. The Nexus concept is fascinating, albeit borrowed from Alan Moore's classic comic book, For the Man Who Has Everything. Data's emotion chip creates some fun and some drama. There's a great cozy Christmas opening and atmosphere for some Christmas stuff in there that's kind of fun, which technically makes this a little bit of a Christmas movie. And the transition between Trek eras feels historic and cool. It's just not done as well as you would like it to be. Even though there's definitely a huge emotional nostalgia factor. I can't deny that. And I'll tell you, I'm not the only fan, and neither is Digger, who are debating Kirk's death endlessly. But as a symbolic passing of the torch film, Generations remains historically important. But let me just warn you, the Captain Kirk death is fucking terrible. You know what? And I'm just going to spoil it so that like you're prepared. He dies from a fall. He falls from a great height and dies. Ugh. And not only that, he's not given like a classic, like, kind of like a military death that you would have if you were like a general in the military and everybody would sign up and it'd be a 4-gun salute and all this shit. Captain Picard buries him under some fucking rocks on the planet where he dies. And he like leaves Kirk's fucking Star Trek thing, I'm forgetting what the recorder or whatever, on the stones. He like puts it on the stones, and it's like, there you go, Kirk on a random fucking planet, dead from a high height. Like, it's really awful. I hope I'm making it sound as terrible a fucking death for Captain James T. Kirk as it is. It is just like fucking awful. I was rewatching it with Digger, and he came in for that. We were just sitting there going, I can't believe this is how they sent out Kirk. And for me, Kirk isn't my favorite starship captain, but it is for Digger. And Digger's just like, you have no idea. Like, you don't even like Kirk that much. I love Kirk. This is just like devastating that this is how Kirk ended. This is the end of Kirk's life. Ugh, it's really bad. But not as bad as the final film on our list, which is so bad it's actually worth watching just to make fun of it. At number 13, we've got Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Spock's mysterious half-brother, Sybok, hijacks the Enterprise on a spiritual mission to literally find God at the center of the galaxy. The movie is fucking messy and bizarre and wildly overly ambitious. But underneath all of that is a deeply sincere story about pain, faith, friendship, and the emotional bond between Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Many bits of which do actually land with the audience and with me. But it's one of the fucking strangest Trek films ever made. And also just one of the most personal, I guess, because it's directed by Captain Kirk himself. However, fuck, man, William Shatner's direction is truly awful. Really, the only other nice thing I could say about it is it's actually not as bad as the documentary that William Shatner directed years later titled The Captains. Oh my God. You want to see a truly awful piece of Star Trek history? Oh my God. That literally makes every single person involved in it look worse for being involved in it. Maybe not Scott Bakula, but like he certainly doesn't look good just fucking being in it. Sisko looks like shit, and Janeway looks like shit, and Shatner fucking, oh god damn it, he looks like shit. And I'm not saying they look bad, like physically look bad. I'm saying they make themselves look bad for the egocentric stupidity of this, like, what it means to be a captain. Like, oh my god, fuck you, Shatner. Holy shit. I mean, just way to make me hate Star Trek. And I love Star Trek. I mean, nobody can make me hate Star Trek. But during the running time of The Captains, I fucking hate Star Trek. I don't quite hate Star Trek that bad watching this movie. But oh my God, if any of what I just said to you sounds like fun, then feel free to watch the Captain's documentary. But really, I would not recommend that. Technically speaking, we'll put that as a 14 on this list, or maybe a 15, because I got to imagine that Section 13 could not possibly be as bad as the documentary The Captain's. But I'm imagining that it's worse than this Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Directed by William Shatner, written by William Shatner and David Lowery. I can't imagine that William Shatner did very much physical writing on this movie at all. Shatner finally, through contracts, he got to direct a Star Trek movie after Leonard Nimoy did 2 of them, 3 and 4. And he did, Leonard Nimoy really did a great job, especially with 2, 3, with 4. I love 4. What is it? The Journey Home? Whatever the fuck it is. Shatner's friggin' vision for Trek, if you can call it that, leaned very, very heavily into shitty spirituality and kind of mythic themes and emotional pain and friendship. And the friendship part is the one part that works well. The production was notoriously troubled. A lot of budget problems and unfinished effects and studio interference, apparently. But I mean, if you see this movie, you'd be like, the studio should have interfered more. Why wasn't there more studio interference? The movie's heart, though, still does resonate with many fans. A lot of people don't find it as fucking trite as I do, but oh god, I find it so fucking trite. You've got Lawrence Luckinbill as Sybok, Spock's brother, who I really just like. I hate this movie, and I hate the brother. I mean, it's not his fault. It's just all crap. He's a secret half brother. You know, it's like one of the, oh, you didn't know you had a brother. Here's a brother. It's just one of Star Trek's weirdest reveals, hands down. The coolest things that I can say about this movie, despite it really being my least favorite, like, I mean, people would tell you that the campfire scene is like pure soul for Star Trek, but like, I don't feel that way. I think it's really trite and terrible and badly written. But getting those characters together, Spock and McCoy and Shatner, despite I think it is written badly, you do like all the scenes that have all 3 of them together. They all have a really nice chemistry, and Shatner clearly knew that was important, and he definitely goes out of the way to give McCoy and Spock a lot of great things to do. Their friendship is at its absolute peak in this movie, and there are moments, mostly towards the middle of the movie, where, they get some tears out of me, and I feel some things. What does God need with a starship is a great quote from the film, and despite the execution being shitty, I think that there are some surprisingly sincere spiritual themes in the movie that clearly were important to Kirk and demonstrate that he's not completely a piece of garbage, as I tend to think he may be. Goldsmith's score is fantastic, as per usual. Shatner swings for friggin' big ideas. I cannot say he really lands them. It's weird, it's messy, and I'm sure he would tell you very deeply personal to him, but certainly not my favorite. I do think, though, that a lot of the things that are the worst about it are funny at this point, and you can kind of find a lot of humor in, I can't believe they let them do this. I would say that even fans like me who rank this last will often admit that parts of Final Frontier understand the emotional core of what Star Trek is better than many of the better made movies. So, it's got that going for it. But that's it. The amazing thing about Star Trek films for me is that they constantly reinvented themselves. Sometimes out of necessity, but still, it's really cool, especially to watch them all in order as I did over the past month, just for fun, just as a fan. You got political thrillers, naval warfare, existential sci-fi, time travel comedy, action blockbusters, especially with the new ones, and then the wonderful philosophical dramas, plus some cosmic mysteries in there. That first movie, it's way better than I had been given it credit for. But through it all, Star Trek never stops believing that humanity can become something better in the future. And that's something that is so sorely needed in this world and missing from most sci-fi. Most sci-fi is just about an apocalyptic future that is almost always far worse than things are right now. But because this predicts a better future for us, that's what makes all of these films and all of the series still matter. And I think that's why I still return to them. And I found myself very naturalistically returning to them. I didn't start watching them to do a series for Coolest Alive. I just started watching them for myself one day when I felt like I needed some comforting movies. And I just started at the beginning. They happened to be free on Pluto TV. They're not free there anymore, but the series are still free on Pluto TV. And I just put them on. And as I was watching them and I started like making some rankings and making some little posts to my friends on Facebook or whatever else, at a certain point I went, you know what? I'm going to do a whole episode of this for Coolest Alive. These movies really mean a lot to me, even though the series mean more. These films mean a lot. And for better or worse, even fucking Star Trek V, at its very worst, well, not at the Alex Kurtzman's very worst, but at the very worst for all of the Star Trek that came before that, these films fill me with hope for a better future. And I think that is the fucking coolest thing about Star Trek, period. It's the reason why it's one of my favorite things there is. What are some of your favorite things, Jesse? The Muppets, Star Trek, Disney animation. These things have been my favorite things since I was a kid, and they remain my favorite things today. And I hope they're one of your favorite things too. If they're not, I hope that you could use this list to help make it one of your favorite things. That's my favorite thing about this show. Being able to share in the monoculture with you, being able to turn new people on to some of the things that have made my heart sing throughout my life, that have provided me with the most joy. And I tell you what, very few things have given me the hours and hours and hours of pure, joyful hope and optimism that Star Trek, the series, have brought me, and Star Trek, the films. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening to the show, and I hope you will join me again next Saturday for another fucking awesome episode of The Coolest Alive. Love you guys. Care Bear Stare. See you next time. You've been listening to Coolest Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent entertainment recommendations. Thanks for listening.
It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, say. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah! It's my favorite part. Isn't that heavy? I'll play that. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout. gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice gonna be fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go.
It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
You'll all see.